All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 26 of Cage Side Convos. I am Rick Huntsman.
And this is Quince.
And we're coming to you live, as always, from right here in American Top Team in Watertown. So, episode 26, we're going to talk a lot about one of my personal favorite mantras. It's you're not special. And one of my favorite things to say to people, one of my favorite things to say to myself even. Mm-hmm. And the biggest thing that happens when you say this to somebody is they are taken aback by it.
Sure.
You're not special. You're not different. You're not unique. There's nothing special about you.
Right.
And it grabs their attention. And for me, the first time that I was exposed to this, I have a buddy of mine, Matt Battinger, and he's huge into strength training. And he recently has been doing a lot of work with like youth athletes and athletic development and stuff like that. And he's kind of my go-to guy for strength training tips, athletic development, power development, speed development, stuff like that. And a couple of years ago, probably 6-7 years ago now, when I first started getting into strength training, and he was, very early on a guy I went to with a lot of questions and stuff. And on Facebook, he posted a picture, and it was this squat rack in front of a mirror, and it looked like it was in this just dirty old basement dungeon of a training facility, mm-hmm. right, of a weight room. And on the mirror, in big black letters, it had the words painted, "You're not special." And I looked at that, and I remember just sitting there and just looking at that picture, and it spoke to me in such a profound way, and I had to sit there and think about it for a while, and what it meant to me initially when I saw it is you're not different than anybody. Mm-hmm. If you don't get in there and you don't put in the work, you're not going to get the results. Right? If you think, well, I'm the exception to the rule. I can work out, 1 day a week and I'm going to get these results, or I can train, 3 days a week and then take a week off. And if I can skip steps because I'm special, I'm different. I don't have to put in the same work that everybody else has to put in.
Right.
And if you don't put in the same work, you don't get the same results, because the truth is you're not special.
Right.
You're not removed from the necessity to do every single step. Mm-hmm. You're not the exception to the rule, And obviously, there's 1 in a billion that are going to be able to get there more quickly.
Yeah.
It seems like they skip steps, or they get through the steps, faster and everything. But
sure. If
you go into it with the thought that, okay, I'm going to be different. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be the one that gets there faster. I'm going to be the 1 in a billion. You're selling yourself short, and I don't think you'll ever reach that full potential.
Sure. And, I think that's all true. But I know when I got the text from you, and that's the first thing I read, you're not special. And my first reaction to it was, of course, I got defensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is he to say?
Yeah.
And until I was able to read through how you broke it down and how you interpret it. And of course, it all matches up and it makes sense, and it's just an interesting perspective. And I can only imagine how many people are kind of put off at first, but how also that shock value can get them to pay attention to what you're going to say next.
Yeah.
So I like that style. And to me, it reflects that, what's that one mantra? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah.
So that one certainly always stood out to me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's an absolutely perfect example too, because talented people, mm-hmm. you look at them on the surface and they are special. They're different. These guys that have this automatic ability, this natural athleticism, this talent, they adapt quickly, mm-hmm. they learn skills fast, and they just excel at every single thing that they do. And people think they're special, mm-hmm. and people tell them that they're special. And they start believing that they're special and they're different, mm-hmm. and they don't work hard, and they think that they don't have to work hard because they were just better than everybody.
Right.
You see these guys when they get to, higher levels of the sports, or playing, D1 colleges, or they end up going pro, and all of a sudden mm-hmm. they fall off because they don't know how to do all the steps that they need to do.
Sure.
In the MMA world, I mean, you look at a guy like John Jones.
Right.
Holy shit, man! One of the most just freakishly talented athletes that's ever been born. And but he, you look at his training regimen, you look at his consistency, and he works hard as a motherfucker. And he's talented. Yeah, he's special. He's different. He's a freak. You see these guys pop up here and there. Like I said, UFC is easy to look at, but you see professional athletes and stuff all the time. But they're the ones that are successful. You look at their work ethic, and it's just as intense, if not more intense, than just kind of regular people.
Sure.
Because they understand that, yes, I may have qualities that I've been gifted with, but I'm not so special that I get to skip steps. I'm not so special that I don't have to work hard.
Absolutely. Because you could be born, physically above average, and things of that nature, just have a different bone or muscle structure or build, and it'll get you to a certain level. But you got to understand, a lot of this training is not just physical, but it's mental.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything you're saying actually reminds me of something I saw. I think it was last night, and it was in response to because of course Kobe just passed away, and prolific scorer, and you could look at him and be like, well, yeah, he's 6'7", he's this and that. He was born to play, but I was watching an interview with Jay Williams. He played at Duke, and then he came to the NBA, and he was he was a prolific scorer as well. And he says he remembers the first time that he went to play in LA, and this is back when Kobe and Shaq, had this dynasty team. So he's like, you know what, I'm gonna get in 3-4 hours before the game starts. I'm gonna hit 400 shots, and I'm gonna be ready, because that's the level I want to be at. And so he says he gets to the gym at 3 p.m. They've got a game at 7 or 8. Gets to the gym at 3 p.m. and he walks in, and the only person that's there is Kobe, and he's already been there. Yeah. He's like, oh shit, okay. Yeah. So he goes through his workout, he hits his shots, and he finishes, and Kobe's still working out. Yeah. And he's like, damn. He's like, well, I want to watch how this goes down. And he said he unlaced his shoes, sat down. He's watching 15, 20, 25 minutes pass before he finishes, and he finally finishes up. So they go to that game tonight. Lakers, of course, win. Kobe drops 40 after practicing for however long he did. Yeah. And he said, I just had to go up to him and I just had to ask him, I'm like, why? Why do you put in all this work? You're already at this level. He's like, you know why? He's like, because I saw you come in. And he said, when I saw you come in, I understood how hard you were willing to work, and I wanted you to see me and know that I'm willing to work harder. Yeah. And that's just some badass shit. He's willing to work harder. Yeah. One of the best players in the world. Still the first one in, the last one out type of mentality. Yeah. And that is something that you're not born with. No. It's something that you're not born with. So, I mean, that's the sort of stuff that I'm trying to take away from these experiences.
Absolutely. And you say that's the type of stuff you're not born with, right? And you're absolutely right, because people look at people like that. People look at work ethic, and people look at heart and commitment and tenacity and stuff, and they think, well, this person's just naturally tenacious. They naturally have this drive to work harder and to excel more. But it's something that can be cultivated. Yeah. To be 6'7", to be naturally athletic, to be tall, for your body to respond well to physical training, to have a knack for learning and understanding. A lot of this stuff is things that you're born with and things that you're lucky to have. But the fact that, you take a guy like Kobe and he's willing to show up 5 hours before the game. Wow. And work out for 3 hours and practice and train and hone his mind and hone his skill and stuff. That's not, you don't do that on your first day. If I went to a basketball court and I tried to be a basketballer for
on the basketball field
for 3 hours on the basketball field, right? So if I tried that, if I just went in there and I picked up the ball and I was like, all right, I'm gonna put in a Kobe jam session, and then later on I'm gonna play they're 12-minute quarters, right? And
12 to 15, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Sure. Yeah, I don't know. But see,
I only watch it every day.
That's how much I know about basketball. But anyway, so an hour-long game. if I think I'm going to go in, I'm going to spend 5 hours on that court, I'm going to be a pile of shit the next day. My knees are going to hurt, my back's going to hurt. This isn't something that you just do. It's something you have to work towards, you know?
Just like we were talking this morning, when I got in, you had just finished up your personal workout session. And I was asking you a little bit about what you've been doing. And I think you said you were a month and a half in, or were you two?
A little over a month and a half.
Yeah, and you've had to, and you train every single day.
Right.
But yet you've had to build on this circuit.
Right.
And, you know, and that's something that, you know, if you try and walk in and try and do 5 reps of what you were doing, you'd die.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to make it through the entire day.
Right.
But, you know, in building up to that circuit, and getting to that goal that you set, you know, that's not going to sway you from the rest of your day whatsoever. Because your body's going to be trained for it, your mind's going to be trained for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, it's not skipping those steps.
Yeah.
You know, and I can look at, you know, where I want to be in 6 months and say, okay, well, I'm just going to do that workout now and beat my body up and not accomplish it. And you know, you can't just jump to that end goal. And one of the biggest things I see when people come in here, I see this a lot with the younger Army guys that come in. They're 19, they're 20 years old. They're in good shape. They're athletic. They're strong. They've got all the motivation in the world, and they come in, and on their first day, they say, "I want to fight." Okay. Never fought before? Nope. You ever trained before? Nope. You ever been punched in the face? Nope. Okay. It's going to take you, before you're actually ready, it'll probably realistically, before you fight MMA, if you want to be fully prepared, it'll take you 2 years. You have to commit 2 years to me, and that's going to be 4 to 6 days a week of training. All right, coach, I'm here for it. I tell them, look, take your time, ease into it, stay for 1 class tonight, come back for 1 class tomorrow, take a day off, you know, just train 3 days this week. No, I'm all in. I want to do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be here 3 hours a day, every single day. All right, man, you're gonna burn out. And I'll tell the guys straight up on their first day here, 2 weeks from now, you're not gonna be here anymore. And they have that same look as when I just told them they weren't special. You know, they don't like that. 2 weeks from now, you're not gonna be here anymore. No, I'm gonna be here 100% of the time. Every single person I've ever had that interaction with on their first day here has dropped off in 2 weeks. Because they want to skip step. They see guys in here like Peter, the young man that's running the desk for us now, man. That kid works like a motherfucker. And he trains every single day. He gets extra work in with me when I ask for it. He does almost every single class. But he's been here for a few years. You know, and they come in, they see a kid like Pete in here training hard, or, you know, other fighters and stuff, and they see these guys in here hammering bags and getting hard rolls in and doing all this shit, and they see this end result. You know, these guys are 6 months, 12 months, 24 months into the process. These guys are taking the steps. These guys have had injuries, they've had layoffs, they've had time off, they've had to recover from it, they've had to fail, they've had to experience the pain and the soreness and the difficulties. And these kids come in and they think they're gonna, I say kids like I'm a 50-year-old man with all this goddamn experience. But these guys come in and they see this and they think they're gonna skip those steps. You know, and they don't want to listen, and they think they're going to be the exception to the rule. You know, and one day there will be, inevitably there's going to be someone who's different and who breaks that mold, but it's not often enough to rely on it, you know.
And you know, and that's one of the harsh truths that I faced, because I remember thinking that I was the exception to the rule when I was younger. I wish I was different, you know, but truth is, you know, I was you know, always pretty athletic. I was like, you know, good at any sport that I was in. Broke records. Went to college and won national championships. And it came very easy, and I didn't really train. I didn't have to, and I was still successful in a way. But it wasn't until I hit my first obstacle. You know, I hit that first obstacle, and I quit. I'd stopped doing it because I was athletically, I was capable, but mentally, I didn't know what it took to be able to reach that next level. You know, and I was kind of like, you know, I didn't even really care that much because I was just kind of riding that wave. But it always stood out to me, looking back, at maybe what I could have done if I had tried, if
Yeah.
I had worked,
Yeah.
if someone
Yeah.
said, hey, you're not that fucking special, man.
Yeah.
You know, other people, you know, are athletic like you, or, you know, some people, you know, intelligent, or whatever attribute or trait that you want to pick. You know, there are other people out there that are willing to put that work in,
Right.
and eventually it's going to show.
Right.
Eventually it's going to show.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's easy for us to sit here and talk about this, you know, and for it to seem like we're, you know, me specifically, for me to seem like I'm being condescending, but all of this comes from experience, and I've gone through, you know, the same thing that, you know, that you're saying you've gone through. You want to quit when you run into that obstacle,
Right.
you know. The first time I lost a fight, so I had 3 MMA fights. I won them all fairly easily, and then I did a kickboxing fight, and I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. Dude was shorter than me. He was like 5'9". I'm 6'4". Dude's 5'9".
Right.
The fucking kickboxing fight. I was like, come on, man. I'm gonna fuck this guy up. I didn't take it seriously. You know, I thought I was just gonna go out there and have to try, because I hadn't had to try before.
Right.
I was fighting on the same card as 2 of my students and another good friend of mine, and we were down there and we had some beers after weigh-ins. Hung out that night.
The night before?
Yeah. You know, I'm a little dehydrated. I'm fucking drinking beer, fucking hanging out hard. We're just having a good fucking time, man. Next night, I go in, I fight. I get knocked down in the first round. Almost get knocked out. Got a concussion for sure. I don't know how the fuck I stood back up. I had a couple of good friends of mine in the corner just yelling at me to get up, and I just remember everything's friggin' fuzzy, and he knocked my fucking block off, man. I got back up, ended up finishing the fight. I don't know how. I came to a split decision, and I lost. And I was upset. I was upset that I lost. I didn't think I deserved to lose.
Feeling sorry for yourself.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And then the more I thought about it, like, who the fuck do I think I am? And I'm gonna go out there. This guy was training. Right. 5'9". He was strong as a motherfucker. 185 pounds. He hit me so goddamn hard. You know, I'm pretty sure part of my brain spilled out of my ears. It took me 6 weeks to recover from that concussion.
Damn.
You know, I got super depressed afterwards. You know, my guys had just seen me lose a fight. I lost in front of my gym family. My brother was there. You know, a good friend of mine came out from Massachusetts, another buddy of mine that I train with all the time. Like all these people that, you know, I thought that, you know, these guys all look up to me, and then I had to have that conversation with myself. Like, who the fuck do you think you are?
Right.
That you're so great that you're not going to lose a fight. And what would I tell somebody if they lost? You know, what am I going to tell one of my guys if they lose? If I watch my coach fight and my coach lost, what would I tell him? You know, I love seeing you in there, coach. Like, wait, you led by example. You know, finish the fight. That's what I want from a fighter of mine. That's what I want from a coach. That's what I want from a training partner. That's what I want from a friend.
Right.
So for me to have this intensely emotional reaction, for me to get all depressed and start feeling sorry for myself and not taking my own advice, not listening, like who am I? Who am I so different that I get to be depressed, that I get to miss time at the gym, that I'm not special. I didn't take it seriously. I deserve to lose a fight.
Yep.
That's the end of it.
Yep.
You know, you get your head out of your ass, you get back in there, and you get back to work.
Yeah.
You know, or you quit.
Yeah.
Those are your options.
Yep.
You know?
So it was there was a point in which I was running track in college for this coach, who, you know, when I got there, he knew that my grades weren't shit. Right. He knew that I didn't care about school, and he knew that I was basically just there to play sports.
Right.
And so he would tell me these things. He'd be like, first and foremost, he gave me a bunch of classes that I didn't even take. So that shit made me feel special. You know, this guy's kind of, you know, putting his job on the line for what I thought was for me.
Right.
You know, he's like, you know, if you can win me, if you could bring a national championship here, I've got connections at D2 locations in Virginia and, you know, South Carolina, and even a couple D1s. He's like, I could get you in there, you know, you get at least half scholarship.
Right.
You know, and tell me all these things. But honestly, I don't think he really thought that I would win eventually. But as the year progressed and I ended up winning, he was kind of put in a strange spot because it was getting, we were getting all this attention and all the spotlights, and he was like, oh shit, I falsified these fucking classes for this kid.
Right.
If they start looking into his transcripts, it's not gonna look good for him.
Right.
And so he got his raise and he got his bonus for people winning the championship, and then he just cut all communication off. And at the time, I had my own personal coach that would run me through sessions.
Right.
And once that stopped, I had no more coach, I had no more personal trainer.
Right.
And it was just me left to, figure out my own workouts, stay committed, stay looking forward and making the right moves. And that was the stuff that I was never trained to do.
Right.
Someone else was always doing it.
Right.
And so the fact that, all those connections stopped, and that was the only thing keeping me in school. I drop out of school and I go and I spiral and just kind of do whatever I want.
Of course.
Which ends up getting me to one of the lowest points I had been.
Right.
Because I didn't know how to respond to that situation.
Right.
It was just kind of like a domino effect.
Right.
But what it actually was that turned it all around was Kanye West's College Dropout. And listening to him, because beforehand I always held athletes or musicians or whatever you want to look at up to a higher standard. Like, oh, well, shit, this is just what they were born to do.
Right.
This is just what it is. This is just how it works. And he said his whole first album was talking about how much work he put in.
Right.
For people to take him serious.
Right.
He's talking about doing 5 beats a day for 3 summers,
Right.
type of thing. And it helped to change my whole mentality and perspective. Like, oh, these guys it's not like they were just born with this gift. They bust their ass
Right.
time and time, day and day, year and year, while nobody's looking. While they don't have the name, they're working.
Right.
And for a lot of people, it looks like they just break on the scene and they're just an overnight success.
Right.
And he's like, that's not ever going to be the case.
Right.
And so that helped me. It helped slow me down, figure out what it was that made me care enough to work day in and day out when nobody's looking.
Right.
When it's just me.
Right.
And that was huge for me. That perspective shift was the biggest thing.
Absolutely, man. And that's one thing we talked about a little bit before is this notion of if you're not willing to do it alone, then you're not willing to do it.
Right.
Like you said, if you have to be willing to be committed to it when nobody else is around, when
Right.
nobody else is watching, when nobody else can see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you slack off when you're not in the spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't know how to act in failure.
Yep.
Because like you said, in your situation, you had these coaches around you, these guys pushing you all the time, and then they dropped off and you're left by yourself, and you didn't know
Yep.
how to do it alone. You
Right.
never had to do it by yourself, and
Right.
that's exactly what it took to get your head back in the right place.
Sure.
And you look at guys that men, women, whoever, anyone who's successful, and they can tell you we've talked a lot, like you specifically, you have this incredible morning routine that I honestly have no desire to emulate, because it's a lot of work. You get up, your morning is structured, and you run, and you have, like you said, almost minute by minute, the first hour or whatever of your
Yep.
day kind of planned out, and even when you wane from that, we talked about distraction and stuff a couple weeks ago. When you get distracted, getting back to that, like you don't just sit there and feel sorry for yourself that you're like, man, I wish I had this routine that I used to have. The work that it takes, you know how to get there. Something I was listening to a podcast one time, and dude was talking about how people are envious of millionaires and people with all this money and people they see that are successful. And if you really think you want that, if you want that lifestyle, if you want that Kobe lifestyle, if you want that level of skill, or if you want that millionaire life, whatever it is that you want, you look at somebody that's there, right? You say, yes, I want this end goal. If you want that, rapper lifestyle, that, famous lifestyle, whatever it is, and you say, okay, find out what it is that took to get them there. Because very few people just turned on a camera and were famous. Most people have a story, like you were saying about, Kanye, man, that constant grind. And forever and ever and ever, it seems like just working for free and just spending time alone, struggling, suffering, losing friends, losing connections with people you thought were your family, all this stuff. There's a lot of perceived negativity that goes on with it, and there's a lot of concessions that we're not willing to make.
Sure.
Once I heard that, I knew right then and there that I never wanted to be a millionaire. Yeah, it'd be cool to have the money just fall into my lap.
Yep.
But what are the odds of winning the lottery? And you got to
Sure.
play it to win it.
Sure.
And
Sure.
that's not something I'm willing to do. And I'm not willing to put in the hours. I'm not willing to work in the way that I know you have to work
Right.
to get there.
Right.
And so I adjusted my goals accordingly, and I know that if I'm to achieve the vision I have for myself, I have to put in the work when nobody else is around.
Yeah, because you don't see right off the sacrifice that it takes, the risk that it takes,
Right.
To progress to a certain level. So that's why it's so important to really understand yourself from where you are and what you want. Like, I keep saying, me finding out what it was that was going to make me stick to the script, that it's going to make me work harder than I ever had before, and to do it without anybody sitting right next to me saying, "Hey, it's this time. You got to get up. You got to run. You got to bust your ass."
Right.
Nobody's going to be there to do it. There's no promise that someone's going to be there to do it. And like you said, it's not for, everyone can't do and be everything.
Right.
Just like you said, you have no interest in my little routine.
Right.
But like, for me, that routine is not even work because it fits so well into what I am trying to do.
Right.
Oftentimes I look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just my own unique need and perspective on the situation.
Right.
So certainly breaking down what it is you're here for and what you want to be able to put out in the world, or the legacy or the mark you want to leave, that sort of thing grounds you and helps you really dig into this process.
Well, and what's interesting is you said the word unique, right? And nobody is going to have the exact same goal. Nobody's going to have the exact same path, right? But we're all going to have the same basic steps. When you break it down, these are the things that need to happen. You need to have a certain amount of routine in your life. You need to have a certain amount of dedication. You need to have a certain amount of discipline, and you need to be willing to do it all when the cameras are off, when nobody's around.
Yeah.
But we look at this and say, okay, well, everybody's unique, but nobody's special, right? The shape of your path might be different than others, but you're not so special that you get to skip steps. You don't get to skip rock bottom. You don't get to skip depression. You don't get to skip anxiety of the future, right? You don't get to skip feeling sorry for yourself, because at a certain point you have to, because you have to have that conversation with yourself, right? The order that these things come, the way that you cope with them, or the way that these revelations come to you might be different, but you're not so special, you're not so different that you get to skip these steps.
Yeah.
And for me, when I was, dealing with I still deal with depression. I mean, it's something you always deal with, right? And if you can understand it more quickly, you can deal with it a little more readily. But I don't think it's anything that ever, fully goes away. But one of the darkest points I was at when I was feeling, very, very depressed and feeling very alone and feeling very isolated, something I found myself saying to myself is so cliche, but I felt alone. I felt like nobody else would understand what I was going through. And that's where this hit me in a much different way than the first time I was exposed to it, is you're not special. Like, you are not alone. There's somebody else that's depressed right now. There's somebody else that needs help. There's somebody that genuinely wants to talk to you. Because I know for 100% fact, if I feel like I want to listen and I want to be kind and I want to reach out and I want to help somebody understand where they're at, there's a 100% chance there's somebody else out there that would be willing to do the same thing for me with a happy heart. And it made me feel so much better. Even without talking to that actual person, I hadn't found the person that was going to be there to help me out or anything like that. But the instant that I realized that I wasn't alone, I wasn't so special that I was the only person that ever experienced this. There's 7 billion people in the world right now. Over 7 billion people in the world. And there are billions of people that have existed before us, and there are billions of people that are going to exist after us.
Right.
And that is an incomprehensible number to me.
Sure.
To think that you're the only person that's ever gone through what you're going through or going to experience this, right? To think that you're that alone is asinine. It's absolutely ridiculous.
For sure. Nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And even saying that to myself. So, for example, when I went back to college, I was taking a public speaking class. And that shit is far from from certainly where I started. And I would just be, torn with this anxiety, about the outcome, how it would be received, or about fucking freezing up. And that's what I'd always say to myself. I said, how you feel right now, you're not the first to feel it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the last to feel it.
Yep.
So in that sense, the people that I'm sitting in class with right now, they feel the shit to a certain degree, or at least started off feeling it before you could build on it. And it was able to get me through, every speech, a lot of my classes, and just a lot of shitty circumstances in general. Yeah. Saying this is not the first and it's not the last. Yeah. And it makes me feel more connected to people, or just to life, and how life works in general. Right. Looking back, one of the things I never thought I would say, because I like how you said that you can't skip the steps, you can't skip rock bottom, you can't skip depression. Looking back, rock bottom was the sturdiest foundation I ever had to start building on. Right. Because you know what it felt like, you understood how you got there. Right. And now you were able to change and adapt, to your actual needs, not just your wants, but you were able to adapt to your needs. And once you feel, that low of rock bottom, it changes your conviction, I think. Yeah. You're able to work harder. You're kind of able to come outside of yourself and your flaws a little bit, and you recognize that you can change. And once you recognize that and you start to work and start to see and feel that change, then the sky is the limit. Right. After rock bottom, the sky's the limit. Right.
And you can honestly tell yourself once you're there, and you recognize, like you said, you have to understand why you're there. Yep. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to realize your flaws, your deficiencies, and what caused you to end up in this position. And you can honestly tell yourself, once you recognize that you will never be there again. And you can build and structure yourself in such a way and learn these lessons in such a way that you never have to experience that again. Because that can be behind you. Yep. Even if externally things seem worse, even if you have less money, even if you end up with no house, no car, whatever, even if externally it seems worse, the fact that you've experienced what true rock bottom is, you've built from there, you understand you never have to go back.
Right.
But you do have to hold yourself accountable, and you do have to stay disciplined. You do have to be honest, and you do have to understand you're not the only one that's been at rock bottom. Right. You're not the only one that's had to rebuild from absolutely nothing. And it's going to look different for everybody. Right. And some people say, well, this is where I hate the comparative kind of mindset. Well, why are you feeling bad for yourself? So-and-so has it worse. So-and-so has it worse. So-and-so has it worse. This is worse for these people. People in this country feel this way. People in that country feel that way. And yeah, fine, sure. But I'm going to understand life from my perspective. Yes. And my rock bottom is going to be unique. My rock bottom is going to look unique. But what's not special about it is that I'm there and I have to rebuild from it. Right. And I never have to experience that again.
Man, I've got this line. It says, something like, music, when it hits you feel no pain, so I could lose it all today and still have the world to gain. Right. And that was kind of a reflection that no matter how it's perceived, I can lose all of my music, I can lose my place, my job, my girl, or whatever, but the place that I'm at mentally from having been where I've been, it's just the opportunity. Yeah. Mentally, I'm still where I need to be. Right. Mentally, I'm far from having nothing. Right. And it's not based on some of these material things, or maybe how it's perceived to be. And to me, that is a sort of wealth.
Yeah.
You know, there's a monetary value that you can lose, but you know that sort of wealth that comes from either heart or mentality is the sort of thing that can't be given or passed down. You know, whether it's financially or in your DNA.
Right.
That's the sort of stuff that's got to be worked for, and you can't skip these steps. You got to hold yourself accountable.
Right.
You know, all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely, and yeah, so you know we've taken this kind of mantra of you're not special, right? This harsh kind of seems like you're lashing out at somebody a little bit,
right?
You know, and you can transform it into a self-reflection. You know, it's you're not, you know, because you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, every single person that has been through life, that has found a sense of purpose, that has found their passion, that has cultivated happiness, that has found true fulfillment in life, has gone through all of these steps.
Right.
And everybody talks a lot about how important positive self-talk is, right? But I think you have to also be honest with yourself, and you have to honestly be able to look in that mirror, right? And for me, again, that image of that I first talked about, that squat rack in front of that mirror with these words painted on it, you know, and when I need that, I conjure that image in my mind, and I put myself in that place, under that bar, looking directly into that mirror, reading those words, telling myself to do the fucking work, you know, and it's not positive self-talk. I'm not talking myself up like, you got this, you can do this, you know, anything like that, but it's honest self-talk. You know, it's you have to do this.
Yeah.
If you want to move forward, you have to. And letting your excuses get in the way, you're crippling yourself. You know, people, you know, especially, you know, people struggling with mental illness and stuff like that, you're depressed, say, well, I don't want to get out of bed today. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. You can stay in bed today. And that's fine. There's honestly nothing wrong with that once in a while. But you have to understand, if you stay in bed, this is what's going to happen today. Nothing. Yeah? And if you say, okay, well, I feel shitty right now. I don't want to talk to anybody. I can barely hold back tears in any discussion that I have. This is going to be a rough day. I could stay in bed. Or I could just go through the steps today. You know, I'm not so special that nobody's going to understand how I feel. If I tell somebody this is how I'm feeling today, there's somebody in my life that's going to understand that.
Right.
And there's somebody in my life that's going to be able to help me feel better.
Yep.
Or if I would give the advice to someone, well, just go train. Just go move a little bit. Just go for a walk. Read a book. Do something. Put on a song. Do something.
Yep.
You'll feel better. Well, if I would give that advice to somebody else, why not take that advice? If I truly believe that, right, I'm not so different from the people I would give this advice to that it wouldn't work for me as well.
Right.
You know, and it's helped me so much pull myself out of these bad places, these negative places, and these self-inhibiting places.
Yeah.
You know, understanding, is it an excuse? Am I using this to cripple myself? Is this good advice that I would give somebody else, and do I need to follow it?
Right. You know, and it is, especially when you break it, you know, when you just tell someone you're not special, and as far as how that is received, it helps to hear that sort of thing from people that you know have your best interest, you know, or that love you. I mean, it still might hurt, but it helps. If someone, you know, if you tell that to someone that you don't really have that same connection with, you know, they might take it a certain way,
Right.
you know, without understanding where that's actually coming from. Because it doesn't have to come from a place of love. It just has to come from a place of understanding.
Yeah.
Because you've been through it yourself. But I just had a friend who's been going through some real hardships and shit lately, a fellow musician, and I just, you know, reached out to him on the side and, you know, told him, hey, you know, a lot of what you're going through, I've been through similar. Yeah. And as far as my reaction and the depression that came after it, it was similar, you know, because these are very human things. Yeah. And he's like, you know, I appreciate you reaching out. He's like, I'm trying to make more music. He's like, I'm trying to make it positive. So I'm trying to make positive music. So, you know, that's what I'm putting out. And I said, look, man, honestly, because same thing has gone through my mind. Yeah. And I was telling him, just as I told myself, I said, look, man, you don't have to make positive art or music to make good art. I'm like, good art is just honest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, because what you're going through, if you put that out and articulate that in your unique way and experience, people are going to be able to connect with that, because you're not the only one that's going through it.
Yeah.
Even me reaching out to you is letting you know you're not the only one that's been through it. And there are certainly people at the time when I was going through it that had to reach and pull me out and say, hey, you're not the only one that's going through it. And like I said, you know, not only was I telling him that, but I was also telling myself that.
Right.
You know, it was something that I needed to hear again. Because like you said, you know, taking your own advice is important. It's easy to give advice, especially if people come to you for it.
Right.
And it seems like the more people come to you for it, the easier it is to not really pay attention to what you need and should be doing.
Right.
You know, because like you say, you start thinking you're special because people are coming to you.
Right.
And then what happens? You don't take your own advice, and then you're in the same fucking place you started.
But you forget what it's like to work.
Right.
You know, like, you know, I'm already here. You know, I'm special now.
Right.
You know, like you said, I'm special. People are asking my opinion. People are asking my advice because they know I've already gone through it. I already did the work. Just because you already did the work doesn't mean you don't need to do it again. Doesn't mean you don't need to show up 4 hours before game time and put in that work. You know, just because it's done once doesn't mean it's not a continual process.
Absolutely. I think it was 2 weeks ago when we said that, you know, at a certain point, you know, when you win all the time and you forget how to lose, that actually becomes a disservice to, you know, the end goal or just progression in general.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And the fact, what's interesting is as you're telling the story about reaching out to your fellow musician there, I was like, man, why does it sound so familiar? That had such an impact on him. I actually read on his page, the only reason I knew it was because I saw him put up a post about it, alluding to that interaction and saying how it had resonated with him so wholly, you know, and the fact that you were willing to reach out and be the person that, in a subtle way, or maybe in a kinder way, or in a less callousing way, you know, tell them like, you're not special, you know, you're not alone, you're not so different that nobody else has been there. You know, I understand what you're going through, and that, you know, that's the reminder that he needed to help push him forward.
Sure.
You know, and that's tremendous, man. Being the person that can say it, and it doesn't always have to be, you know, you're not special. It doesn't always have to be grabbing him by the throat and shaking him and saying, you're not special, motherfucker. You're just like everybody else. It doesn't have to be like that. Sometimes it's more fun to do it that way.
You gotta know your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said,
but
if it's someone that you're close to,
right.
Someone that you have a rapport with, or someone, you know, maybe you've had this discussion with before too. You know, if I hit you up, you know, if you said something, I was like, Quince, you're not special, man. You'd be like, oh, all right, yeah.
True,
like,
true.
You know, you're right. You know, so, but it's important, you know, to build that rapport, and it's always important, no matter what stage of your life you're at. It's important to know that. And whether it's, I got to get back to this hard work, I got to remember what steps I took to get here in the first place, or I have to remember that I have people that are there for me.
It's huge.
You know,
huge.
I had one morning a while ago, a really close friend of mine called me, and I didn't call him back. He called me again like a week later, I didn't call him back. Left me a voicemail, hey buddy, you know, just calling to shoot this shit, you know, and then called me again like another week later, and I got home from the gym, I saw I missed a call from him. I didn't call him back, and because I was feeling shitty, I was feeling really bad. And the next morning I woke up and I was thinking about it, and I just been, you know, ignoring him and blowing him off, and the reason I had is because I was in a bad place. I wasn't feeling great mentally. I was really depressed, and I felt alone. You know, I felt isolated, and it dawned on me. I was sitting there in my living room. I was getting ready to come to the gym for the day, and so I sat down. I picked my phone up, and I typed a message out to him and told him exactly how I felt. I was feeling really shitty. I was feeling really isolated, and the reason I hadn't taken the time to call him is because I knew the conversation with him very specifically, amongst anybody else that I know in my life, is going to make me laugh. He's gonna make me feel better without necessarily even discussing what's going on, you know. And before, you know, as I was typing that out, I did it because I realized I was sitting there pitying myself.
That's the word.
That's what we were
That's
looking
the
for
word.
earlier.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was just feeling bad for myself, and I thought, why of all the fucking people that I know in this world,
Yep.
that's the one person I can rely on and I can count on. And me being alone, feeling alone, is self-fabricated, right? And he and I have been friends since we were in high school, you know. So I think we started hanging out when we were 16, 17 years old. So now over half my life we've been very good friends. And I'm sitting there telling myself, he's called me 3 times in the past 3 weeks and left me voicemails and tried reaching out to me, you know, and I'm telling myself I'm alone.
Right.
You know, so I took the time and I reached out to him, told him what was going on. I was like, I'll give you a call tonight, man. And I called him and shared, and we didn't even talk about that when I called him that night. We were on the phone for like an hour just bullshitting and just, you know, connecting,
Yep.
you know, and reminding myself that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't so special, that I didn't have anyone that was there for me,
Yeah.
you know, and that was one of the most profound moments in my life, and reminding myself, you know, not only was I not special, but I wasn't alone. I wasn't so different that I was completely alienated
Right.
from everybody in my world, you know.
Yeah, it's huge. No, all the way true. And you know, and even at this point, you know, we've spent weeks talking about things that we've gone through, and the places we're at, and even at this point, we're still learning. I'm still learning constantly. These things are, whether it's learning something new or relearning something that I thought I understood before.
Sure.
You know, it's a constant progression forward. And I think that's why, you know, a lot of these topics seem like they fall right at the time that they're needed most. But that's because they're happening as we speak.
Right.
You know, we talk about how success not being the end all be all.
Right.
Because the shit is happening as we speak. You know, we hit these roadblocks, and it helps me write the script. You know, finish the script, or you know, add on a topic or a story. So a lot of these things that I talk about are very current. You know, I might post some stuff from the past, but like, you know, it doesn't change at no matter what level that you reach.
Right.
You still have to, you know, have your outlets, the people close to you. You know, you still have to be honest, and even that vulnerability that you shared with him. I can only imagine the weight that was lifted off.
Yeah, oh, big time, man.
You know, someone was just telling me the other day, having a conversation, and they're like, well, you know, I can tell that I know that people come to you. And even my whole life, I don't know, maybe just because I think maybe I was an older sibling, I was the oldest. Right. So I always knew what it was like to have people depend on you and come to you. And that's kind of been how how my whole life has played out. And they'll come and they'll tell me everything or whatever's wrong, and you know, I'm there, and I could be strong for them and try and give them advice and try and reach back and connect to the things that I've gone through. Right. And they're like, don't forget that you need that too. Yeah. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. You know, you know what I mean? You know, don't forget that you need it too. Yeah. 'Cause you do. I do. You know, people come to me often, so not that I consciously think about it, but I think I need to be mentally in a place where I can help. Yeah. And sometimes just saying, bro, I ain't got it today. Yeah. You know, is a weight lifted, or being vulnerable myself. Right. You know, is needed. You know, and it's human. And it's nice to have people in your life that can remind you in whatever fashion, in whatever way that you can receive it. Right. So. Yeah. You know, definitely grateful for it, but like, you know, every day it's it's an eye opener, and there's something to be learned or worked on. Absolutely, man. And that's the beauty of it, is it doesn't have to be a checklist. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have to say, okay, I did this. Right. You know, boom, I'm done with it. Mm-hmm. You know, okay, great, got it, check. I'm not special, and then I never have to revisit it. Right. You know, life's cyclical. It's a spiral. You know, every single time you come back to the same topic. Mm-hmm. You're gonna pick something up different. It's gonna look different. Sure. Or you see, something will pop back up. 7 years ago you said this. I'm like, holy fuck, man! Like, what was I at? Where was I at in life, in my head, that I was on this topic, and then now I'm here again.
you know, and it resonates. But in between, you almost forget about it. You know, sort of have those reminders, like you said, have someone come to you and say, like, you need that for yourself too. Like, just because you're the person that people tend to go to, doesn't mean you're so special that you won't need that.
You're different,
in your own
you're
right.
special,
Yeah,
right?
Right. And I think the biggest thing, kind of the last point I wanted to talk about a little bit was we are unique. We all have unique abilities. We all have unique qualities. You know, like you said, the fact that people have a tendency to come to you more, you know, you're unique in that sense, right? Obviously, you're not the only person in the world that feels that way, that people come to them and talk to them and stuff. But I think what can make us special is if you really want to be special, you have to embrace what makes you unique, cultivate your strengths, and find some way to have a positive impact on the world.
Yeah.
You know, being special, I think, has to be positive. I think it has to be good. You know, because if you have something that's special in your life, something that you cherish, whether it's a person or, you know, like a little knick-knack from childhood or something like that, it's something that brings up a positive memory, that makes you feel better, makes you want to be a better person, whatever, right? So something special always has a positive impact.
Right.
So just because we're unique and we may have slight differences from other people, if we don't embrace that, if we don't try to have a positive impact on the world, right? So whatever we're passionate about is usually something that makes us unique, right? Cultivating that passion and finding your purpose to make those around you better, to uplift those around you, or to help, you know, somebody in some kind of way. Right. That's what makes you special, you know. And if you want to be special, if you want to think that you're special, you have to go get it. And you have to remember that you're not as special as you think you are just because you're different. If you're not doing anything with that uniqueness, if you're not cultivating that, if you're not using that to make the world better, to lift up those around you, make your situation better, you know, being unique and being special aren't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. You know, and I'm sure I've stopped myself plenty of times from doing things that I might have loved. And even when it came to music, I was very just late in the game as far as what I thought I should have been doing or needed to do to reach a certain level, until I came to a point where I'm like, sure, I might be starting late, but I'll never be able to maybe, you know, rap as intricately or make, you know, a certain level of beats, but the only thing that I have to offer is just me. Right. Whatever is unique about me, whatever is honest, all I have to offer is this honesty. And that's all I got, because no one else could ever replicate that. Right. Someone, you know, you could rap, you could freestyle off the top for days, or you could rap as fast as you want, or you know, but no one can do it like you. Right. No one's gonna be able to fight like you, or how you understand life, or you know, whatever you guys do out there. No one's gonna be able to do it like you. So that it was something, once I told myself that kind of, you know, all these things that I thought were true, kind of started to fade away. Right. And that pressure kind of, you know, kind of got off the shoulders a little bit, because it's not, you know, I wasn't doing it for anyone else or anything else. I was doing it because it made me happy. It made me a better person, you know, in regards to how I treated myself, others, and the things around me. But it like every aspect of life changed, and it made me want to understand it more and be better in my approach. So that's how I knew that this is where I needed to be. Right. You know, this is what I have to offer. In regards to the impact you have, I mean, like it or not, you're gonna impact people's lives. You know, in a good way, in a bad way. You impact your own life on it daily. So it's nothing that you can escape. And I just think the positive impact. The amount of people that you could reach and inspire, and how that continually grows. I feel like having a negative impact stops right there. Right. You know, you can have your impact, say what you want to say, get your attention, but it stops right there. If you can't see this, just right here. But I think to think about the positive impact and doing it for the right reasons, first and foremost, positively impacting myself. Right. Is kind of what kind of emanates you know, and it continues to grow even when you're not looking. We talk
Right.
about this all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Even when you're not paying attention, even in your sleep, it continues to grow because it, you know, to change people in, you know, in a more positive way for themselves is contagious.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's contagious.
I think I'm just gonna try some metaphor on for size. Say,
Let's do it.
As you were explaining that, the negativity, like you said, it stops. The negativity stops right around you. It's very localized, and I think negativity, it's like a black hole. It pulls people in, and you have to suck people into it. You have to drag people into it, and it's very aggressive, and it's very negative. You know, if you want people to be negative, you have to go out and you have to get that. You have to move yourself around. You have to suck all these people in and ruin that mentality. But being positive, I think, emanates outwards, and I think it continues outwards.
Sure.
You know, you don't have to go get people to be positive. The positivity leaves you, and it continues outwards. You know, whereas negativity is very inwardly focused. I think positivity is very externally focused, and it will gravitate to other people, and it spreads.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, you reached out to your friend, and I said I saw his Facebook post. You know, and then there's somebody that read that. Fuck, man, I read it, and I was like, hell yeah. I was like, yes, absolutely. Like it doesn't need to be good to make a difference.
Right.
You know, it just has to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, so you embrace that honesty and that positivity, and you have a desire to make a strong impact. It's going to emanate outwards from you, and it's going to continue outwards
Right.
from everybody.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, no, and that's a great way to put it.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Again, you know, you guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Always every Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, make sure to check us out. You know, you're catching this on Facebook, whether it's live right now or you catch the video later. Of course, the share is appreciated, but also check out Day One on YouTube. We've got every episode lined right up for you.
If you, in a couple of days, we'll post a link to YouTube on here, or if you search Cage Side Convos, or if you search Hold Down Upstate or Day One or any of that stuff, it'll pop right up. If you guys want to check out some of the other stuff we've talked about, really, honestly, I'd love to hear back from you. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if it resonates with you, or if you have some contradictory ideas. If
Sure.
you'd like to have a conversation, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So thanks again,
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.